Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. Dan's not here, but he'll be on later for the football moaning. I'm going to do the West Ham Way preview, the big game. Premier League's back. West Ham are officially back. I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to it, but I will try and put as an optimistic spin on things as I possibly can. I've done my homework. I've done my research. So hopefully I'll give you a little bit of insight into the Newcastle team. I did an interview the other day with Chris from The Athletic, who gave me a little bit of spin in terms of, Newcastle's transfer news, where they hope to go this season, how optimistic they're feeling. And it feels like it's one of them games where Newcastle have come in with brand new signings, a bit of vigour, and West Ham have come out of a 5-3 loss, albeit in the Betway Cup, a lack of signings, key weaknesses in the squad, and we're on very different trajectories. But knowing West Ham, something might come out of the hat. So let's have a look at my predicted lineup for the Saturday game. Right, I think it's fairly obvious who's going to start in goal. I think Lucas Fabianski. I'm not going to pick on Dave Martin. I don't think he had the best of games. I don't think the defence helped him either. But Fabi will return to the squad, in my opinion. We've got Ben Johnson at right back. Yes, he had a very poor game. It wasn't his best performance in a West Ham shirt, albeit he's only had a few. But listen, he's young, he'll develop, he'll get better. I can't imagine him making the same mistakes. I think Bournemouth got it spot on, to be honest, down that wing with Adam Smith and dangermen. I don't think it will be the same, albeit I think Saint Maximin is a real threat, and it will give him the same problems that dangermen did. But listen, we don't know how much the sort of behind the scenes news is affecting him. I hope he comes into the game. Listen, I hope he comes in top form, because we all support Ben and he's an academy product. At the back, I've gone for Diop and Ogbonna. It's probably worth mentioning that this isn't the team that I would play, but this is the team that I think Moyes will play. Diop, for me, was incredibly poor last Saturday. He was getting turned inside out. As a player, I think he can be clumsy. I think he doesn't deal too well when he's on the ball and there's pressure behind him, which I think might give Callum Wilson hope if he plays this Saturday. But I do think Moyes will stick with him because I understand he doesn't really value Balbuena. He could surprise us. I think Balbuena's done okay in pre-season. Obviously, Angelo Ogbonna will start. Fantastic defender. He's probably the only one that could come away with his head held high after that drubbing against Bournemouth. Aaron Cresswell on the left. Listen, I've done my homework on Newcastle. Jacob Murphy's looking lively down that right. Chris said that potentially Matt Ritchie might pop up and start cutting in. I think we know Cresswell's a weakness. He can be beaten by pace. He can't get forward without exposing himself behind. He's going to rely quite heavily on Pablo Fornal supporting him against Newcastle because he could get picked apart quite easily. In midfield, Tommy Souček's back. Listen, huge player for us, massive player. I didn't think he was going to start. I think X has mentioned that he's ready to go on Saturday. I think Moyes will pluck and put him in. He's seen what happens with a team without Souček and Rice, and it's not pretty viewing. So listen, Tommy Souček back in is a top quality player. Scored against Newcastle last time. Physical presence. I think he's brilliant in the box as well. So from set pieces, he's going to be a huge attacking threat. Declan's obviously going to start, in my opinion, a top player. I'll show you the stats. We know his abilities now. It's second nature for us to understand what Declan offers to the team. I think the additions, in particular, of Callum Wilson, the danger of Saint Maximin, even people like Murphy looking lively. We're going to need Declan to support the fullbacks in particular and cover for them at times where they push on too far. And it'd be interesting for me to see whether Moyes tries to push on Newcastle and put pressure on that back four, or whether he's going to keep quite conservative, as we saw against United away near the end of last season. And maybe we will rely on things like set pieces for us to get our goals. Now, I've gone for Mark Noble in the 10. I think we're going to see Moyes revert to type. I think Noble will start. Is he a natural number 10? No. I just think the positional freedom it gives him not to track back is something that benefits his style of play, particularly now as his athleticism seems to have gone. I think he can still be relatively effective in terms of the press. I will be interested to see how he copes with Shelvey and Longstaff sitting deep. That might inhibit him. Now, I've gone Pablo on the left. Again, I cry for someone like Pablo Fornals to play down the middle. I think, Dan's covered it as well. He's His attacking pressures is one of the highest in the teams. His work rate's fantastic. He can play that 10. He does lack pace, and I think it is tricky for him in the Premier League, where he's not in a team that has the ball all the time. He's physically, it's quite hard for him to get into the game. And I think Longstaff and Shelvey will be rough, will be brutal, would make it difficult. So unfortunately, I think we will see Fornals pushed out to the left. I personally don't agree with it. I would like to see a much more natural left winger, possibly even like Yarmolenko play down there. I don't think Anderson's in the best of form at the moment, to be honest, but I think he's another option that could slot in. Jared will obviously play on the right. I'm excited to see how Jared Bowen plays. I think depending on injuries this season, we could see him pushed up to a second striker role, but I think he's obviously going to start on the right. I think he gives... I do think he gives them issues if Jamal Lewis pushes up the way he did for Norwich, because Norwich love to play with width in their sort of fullbacks, liked him to press high. It could be different. Obviously, at Newcastle, Steve Bruce is a little bit more conservative, but we shall see on that front. Mikel Antonio has to start up front for me. Mobile, can hold up the ball, can bring people into play. Scored against Newcastle last time. Great form towards the end of last season. A real pivotal part in the way West Ham play, and a real Moyes player. Moyes likes him, and listen, I hope he gets a goal on Saturday, to be honest. Right, Newcastle's team. Now, if there's any Magpies watching, they'll probably take a dig, but this is what I think will happen. Speaking to Chris, they played very, very defensively when Steve Bruce come in. They then changed it later on in the season and looked to be a little bit more expansive. I think with the defensive reinforcements and some of the attacking players they now have, they could look to be a little bit more offensive. My biggest concern with someone like Newcastle is their strength in depth in their key areas has improved massively compared to ours. So we'll start off in goal. Dubravka, great shot stopper, seems to be in the right place at the right time, deals with crosses well, very, very good keeper. Jamal Lewis, in my opinion, will slot in at left back, offers a lot going forward, defensively quite good as well. I think they'll look for him to bomb on and support Saint-Maximin, and I think an overload down that right may trouble Ben Johnson, and we did see that particularly against Bournemouth. Fabian Schär is their first choice centre-back alongside Lascelles, but he won't play on Saturday due to an injury. So Fernandes has played a number of times in pre-season. I imagine Lascelles and him will partner up. And DeAndre Yedlin, who really struggled in Newcastle's last game against Stoke City in pre-season, beat him very, very easily in the year. Now, that is an area that I would look for West Ham in particular to target, particularly from set pieces. I think Lascelles and Fernandes are good in the air, and I think that may compensate for it. But to target Yedlin, particularly on that right-hand side, make it very difficult for him. You know, if Antonio can drift as well, and he's got a little bit of fluidity in terms of him playing up front, put pressure on him, because yes, he's quick, yes, he can get forward, but defensively he's not the best, and I think that's why as a player we haven't seen him push on. I think midfield statutory. I think Longstaff and Shelvey sit deep. Both have got really good passing ranges, really good technical players. I'm not sure on them defensively. I don't know about their work rate, but they could offer something, particularly on Saturday. Almiron's an interesting one because he struggled a lot during his earlier time at Newcastle. Didn't get enough goals and assists. Seems to have had that now to his game. Looks a little bit more comfortable. Will look to link up the play. It will be a different outlook for him this season with someone like Callum Wilson in front of him. So we could see him become effective. But I do think West Ham will deal with him quite easily with Souček and Rice. Very, very aware defensively, can cut the space, makes it difficult for him to work. And albeit physically, I don't think he's going to compete with them. So he will have to drift out of position to have any effect. Saint-Maximin, huge danger, man. Obviously, I'll show you the stats in a minute, but what a player. You know, I was there at the game when West Ham played Newcastle and they were 3-0 up. I think it was in the 50th minute. They definitely were battering us for a long period of that game. And we know Saint-Maximin against Zabaleta was a complete mismatch due to his pace. But I think Saint-Maximin offers a lot more than just pace. His dribbling ability, the 3 assists he got against Bournemouth towards the end of last season showed his variability in his play. Likes to take it to the byline, can drift inside as well. The unpredictability of Saint-Maximin makes it very difficult for Ben Johnson to operate in this game. I personally think Fredericks would be too poor defensively, but I do think Ben Johnson sometimes struggles against players that add variability. So he will need support down that side. He will need someone like Jared to support him. We know Jared's got a fantastic work rate, and that's something that Moyes needs to get instilled in him ahead of the game. I've gone for the Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy's actually done quite well at Newcastle in pre-season. He's been brought in on that right-hand side. They don't have a real natural right winger. I think the argument, you could put Atsu in there, you could put Richie in there. I think Murphy will start based on the amount of times he's played, the goals he's scored in pre-season, keeps the width very well, good goal scorer. He's part, in my opinion, of Newcastle's ability to play a little bit more expansive next season. And then this horrible man up front, Callum Wilson, needless to say, he's going to cause us some right issues. What does he offer? Great finishing from outside the box, inside the box, stays very offensive, offers mobility, can win aerial duels. Listen, he's a very, he's in my opinion, quite a complete centre forward. He's a natural number 9. Against our back 4, he could sort of, if you looked at them in isolation, he could cause them problems, particularly someone like Issa Diop, which is where I think he'll target. I think Ogbonna can deal with him due to his aggressiveness. But ultimately, it's interesting for me to see. It'll be a little bit of a chess match on Saturday, because I think if West Ham sit deep and you put Declan and Souček in front of the back 4, it's difficult for Almiron and Wilson to operate in behind. Having said that, I think if West Ham push for a goal, they could get exploited. And I think Newcastle have got some serious players to hurt us on the counter. Moving on to the key players for this game. Now, needless to say, this geezer is going to probably run riot. I think his record against West Ham is, I think it's 7 goals in 8 games from memory. Listen, he's a good striker, offers a lot. You see there, 54 shots for Bournemouth last season, their most in a struggling team. He even struggled with injury, which actually says a lot more about his play. Now, the 517 attacking third touches, so that he is going to stay offensive, that Bournemouth have looked to employ him very much in that final third. Newcastle will do the same. The issue that I've got with Newcastle is when you've got the likes of Longstaff and Shelvey, you've got that passing ability. If they break, and I think Wilson's going to stay offensive enough to cause issues, I think he's still got that burst of pace to really hurt our defenders if they push too high. I think he's going to be a real problem. Even the aerial duels, like even winning 54 aerial duels in a team that doesn't really look to play long ball, doesn't look to put sort of crosses into the box and loop it up long. Listen, that's impressive, and that's why I think he's such an issue. His ability to use his body, he can turn defenders. I think against static defenders such as Diop, I think Diop has raw attributes to be a better defender. I don't think he's got it in his locker just now, and that's why I think Wilson could target him. I think it'll be tricky. I think we're going to have to rely heavily on the likes of Souček and Rice to cover for the centre-backs. And I think that's how we're going to nullify him. But he is a threat. He'll remain a threat, even if it's 0-0 and he's on for the full 90 and he's still staying in the, near our defenders and in between the two. He can run in between. He can run behind. Even if a fullback, I think Ben Johnson will start. But if he gets pulled out or Creswell, he could cut in behind. And that constant threat, I think, is what's going to trouble Moyes on Saturday, and in particular West Ham. And this geezer now, I think this guy is their best player by a long shot. You see there 102 successful dribbles, and most in that team, 4.2 shot creating actions per 90, and that was despite Saint-Maximin not scoring the most goals and not creating the most assists. 7 goal contributions is impressive in a team that lack creativity, but you can clearly see there from the number of shots per 90 and the amount of action he has in the final third that someone like Saint-Maximin is a player in waiting to chalk up goals and assists. I think take the stats out of it, because sometimes you can't rely on them too heavily to see a player, but his unpredictability, his creativity, his eye for a pass, he's very good at setting up other players. I think now he's looking in a team that's able to operate a little bit more offensively than they were. I think Steve Bruce will let those shackles off a little bit. And I think when he's got someone like Wilson running in behind rather than Joe Linton or Andy Carroll looks to hold it up, he's going to benefit massively from that. And when we watched him again when they had Dwight Gale, that element to the game, made him seem more effective, made him seem to link up with play a little bit more. I think the way to get the best out of him is obviously to keep him in the final third, to sort of relinquish his defensive duties, and potentially could cause a lot of issues down that left-hand side. I think like I've said, I think Jarrod Bowen and Ben Johnson need to work together in order to nullify his threat. I think if you sit Rice and Souček in front of the back four, his natural tendency to cut him from the left and move more central, you nullify it a little bit. My issue is when you've got the likes of Murphy sticking wide and he's got pace, Wilson running them behind. You can't really set up defensively, have a strong back four and a two sitting and trying to sort of contain them. They will push us out of position. Naturally, we will try and push forward, particularly with the fullbacks. I know Moyes wants his fullbacks to get forward. They just lack the ability to do so. And we could ultimately get cut open. I hope it doesn't happen. I really hope that that we're conservative in this game, that we use, we optimise the set pieces. Maybe look to bring Haller on in the second half and play up with Antonio. I would have plucked for a 4-4-2 in my opinion. I think you match up with them in midfield. I think Souček and Rice offer enough mobility to play more centrally rather than sitting deep, and they can push forward as well. And I think if you're going to try and score goals against them, you're going to have to prey on their centre-backs that aren't that quick, that can be turned, that are good in the air. But if you get men in the box and you've got the likes of Antonio moving off Haller, you may create something. But again, listen, it's touch and go in terms of how West Ham try and win this game. But it goes without saying that Declan is arguably our most important player. The stats are quite clear. What he offers: the most completed passes, the tackles, the interceptions, ball carries as well, the touches on the ball. The play goes through Declan Rice. His passing accuracy, his passing range, his ability to drive forward, adding goals into his game, his defensive awareness. He's an intelligent football player. And I think if Newcastle stand a hope in terms of playing it when we're not on the counter, when the game is very much in the middle of the park, this guy makes it very difficult for him to advance. It's if he pushes forward, and I don't believe I consider it a bad move of Moyes if he tries to push him up in particular. If he can sit deep when he can, I think he can cover the fullbacks. I think he can nullify Saint-Maximin. I think he's obviously got the physique to out-muscle Almiron. He's really crucial, in my opinion, to this game. I think Declan is basically a safety net for our defence. If you watch West Ham, you've seen week in, week out the amount of covering runs and interceptions he does, because he's very, very intelligent and he understands where the ball's going in behind. We're going to need that, and I think now with the likes of Souček next to him, and the sort of the allowance of Souček to move forward if Rice sits, it's perfect for us because it gives us a little bit of mobility in midfield to push up on the counter. Listen, he needs to be switched on for this game. No doubt that he will be. He is our most important player. He's a leader as well. He's good in the air. I think he can do a lot for West Ham. My concern is I don't know how he is after England duty. Hopefully, listen, he's young. He's played 38 games. He should be fully fit. He should be raring to go. But no doubt in his quality. He will be a key man in this game. And for us, listen, you can't overlook him either. Mikel Antonio, the most goals last season, the most successful dribbles, wins a lot in the air, strong, powerful, mobile, can get in behind, has a lot of shots, albeit his finishing isn't the best, which is why he doesn't seem to register as a clinical striker for us. There's no doubt in his work rate, what he offers to the team. And for me, he's that guy that when we're looking at trying to beat Newcastle, we can beat them two ways. In the air, we can through overloads through the likes of Souček, Rice, or Bonner. We can get something. We proved that last season against Newcastle away at St James's Park. They are good in the air, Newcastle. They can win the first ball. But if Haller or whoever's playing, even if it's Souček, gets the knockdown and we have enough men in the box, we will score. And personally, I believe that's because the likes of Fernandes and Lascelles aren't the most mobile centre-backs. I think they can get got at if we have pace, which is why I think Antonio has to start, because he can get in behind. He can cause them problems. He can even come short to draw them out and Bowen to run in behind. That could be another avenue for West Ham to try and succeed. We even saw in pre-season against Brentford, Souček bombing on. That could be another angle. I think that's the way you beat Newcastle. I think Bruce is a conservative manager. He likes to sit deep. He proved it with his formation last season. It's about pulling them out of position and using the pace that we have and the mobility that we have to get in behind, to create chances. We aren't the best at creating chances, but we have to use what we've got. And listen, there's no doubt in that Mikey's the guy to do it, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen a 4-4-2 purely because I think Mikel Antonio benefits from working with Haller. Their partnership's clear. I think if you can also preoccupy the likes of Lascelles and Fernandes, and I think because Lewis and because DeAndre Yedlin like to push forward, maybe on the counter there's an opportunity to occupy the centre backs and get the wingers in behind, even though I don't feel Fornals is a natural winger. Potentially in the second half, you bring on Yarmolenko, maybe Felipe Anderson for the last 20 minutes, albeit his form isn't the best, we know, but he has got the pace and he can hurt teams. There are ways of winning this game. It's about being mobile. It's about putting pressure. It's about using set pieces. West Ham do score goals against Newcastle. Newcastle, even though they're playing a defensive style, aren't the best defensively. Their holding midfielders, Longstaff and Shelvey, are very good deep line passers of the ball, but they aren't physically the best. Unfortunately for West Ham, I don't believe we have a number 10. I don't think Mark Noble's going to cause them too much issues because of his lack of athleticism, and that's why I think if you could just get Felipe Anderson to add work rate to his game in that number 10 role, I think he'd be perfect, because I think he would cause him issues. He would draw him out of position. He could get him behind. We could create chances. But in terms of this game, I think, like I've said, aerially and the second balls, we can get them. We can try and pull them out of position. We need to use the mobility when we can. Now, let's have a look at the sort of the last 5 games West Ham have played against Newcastle. I actually don't remember Newcastle beating us 3-2, I think, back in 2017. Now, the 3-0 and the 2-0, you'll remember clearly that the 3-0 away at St James's Park when Felipe scored a goal. Even Wilshere chalked an assist that game. It was quite an easy pedestrian game for West Ham. Very, very similar in the returning fixture against Newcastle when Declan Rice scored his goal. That ended the Longstaff debate quite clearly. I was there for the 2-3 at home. Listen, I don't think we can read too much into it. I think fans will sort of look back at it and say, well, we didn't have a great record against Newcastle last season. Okay, on results-wise, yes, but when you actually look at it, we had Roberto in goal, who's possibly the worst goalkeeper I've ever seen in any league. I don't even think he should be a football player or a goalkeeper or either. But anyway, he was there. We were poor defensively. The run of form, the team looked deflated. It was just a really, really, bad run for us. And Newcastle exploited it quite easily, and they got their goals very early on. That was a terrible performance against Newcastle later on in the season. I thought we played a lot better. We could score goals, but defensively we still had the same issues, and that's why it was 2-2. We should have won that game, and I think a lot of West Ham fans were concerned that we lost 2 points, and that would come back to bite us, but luckily we beat Watford. Listen, I think Newcastle is a winnable game. We're fortunate that it's not a Liverpool or a City that we're used to seeing. We can beat them. I'm just concerned on our form. I'm just concerned on our weaknesses. I'm actually quite happy Fraser, I don't think, is playing. I don't think he's fit enough to play, because I think he'd cause us issues, not directly from the left. I do think he's effective, but I think maybe Bruce would look to put Saint-Maximin at number 10. And I just don't want to see Maximin at number 10, because I think he has got the ability to dribble past the likes of Souček, because he is very mobile. He's very good with the ball. He's tricky. And it's not because Souček's a bad player, but because the way that Saint-Maximin plays, it's really difficult to pin him down. And I think he can link up very well with Wilson. So I think that's a fortunate aspect of it. But I think Newcastle fans will agree they're not really too sure what's going to come up on Saturday, because some of the signings they haven't seen. I think I'd like to say draw. I would like to say draw. I'm going to put myself out there and say that. But I've got a horrible feeling that Wilson's going to score, and I think he could get 2 goals against us. I think defensively we're too weak. If they target particularly down our left-hand side, and Murphy can use his pacing behind Creswell and he pushes up too far. And Fornals doesn't track back, albeit I do think his work rate's very good. But if he's not tracking back in that sense, we can get exploited. And I struggle to see how we win the game comfortably. I think if we win it, it could be a last-minute winner, it could be a set piece, could be anything. But to win the game, we've got to be competitive in the air, and we've got to use our mobility. as best we can. So that was the preview ahead of the first game of the Premier League season. Football Moaning is tonight. If I can get this out before then, I doubt it, but you'll probably see it Friday morning. And then we are going to do extra time on Saturday. It's going to be a late one because the kickoff's at 8 o'clock, I believe. But we will do it anyway. Cover the game, cover the key points. Fingers crossed we've got the 3 points and we get that really good result coming into the season. But obviously, until next time, take care.